Here's what you get when you mix F1 technology, AMG's best V8, and you shove it into their most luxurious sedan. And that is the S63 E-Performance. And the Performance S-Class has always been such an epic car because it's been such a contradiction in terms. The ultimate luxury that Mercedes could offer paired with the mad performance and the dark side of Mercedes AMG. And today's car is an absolute brute. 802 brake horsepower in a V8 hybrid, and it has the difficult job of replacing both the S63 and the S65. I've tested all of AMG's recent hybrids and come away unimpressed, so my expectations coming into S63 were low, but man have they been smashed. I can tell you that this is an absolute beast of a car, and I was not expecting the results that you will see later in the drive today. So today we're going to check out the full history of the Performance S-Classes. I'll show you what this car is under the skin in terms of what powers it, the new technology, the F1 tech, etc. And then we will drive it properly on the road, and you're going to be as shocked, hopefully, as I was. So let's check this out. AMG's new luxury flagship, the S63 E-Performance. So today's episode of RBR is once again sponsored by Manscaped. Yes, those people who care about your balls. They also care about helping you look and feel your best. And in that regard, they've started the Buff Bundle to help you shower and look your best. If, like most of us, you use something like this, then you'll really want to know about this brand new product that they've launched, which is the Body Buffer. This is a silicone body scrubber that's antibacterial, and it helps get rid of dead skin, bacteria, ingrown hairs. And unlike your typical wash mitt, it's really designed to scrub and clean really well, like it says, to buff you up. I think you're really going to love it versus your traditional wash mitt because it also helps waste less product. Product like this that I've been using for a while, which also comes in the Buff Bundle. You'll get 2 of these Manscaped body washes, which have been brilliant. They have this fantastic cologne fragrance, which I love. It's infused with aloe vera, sea salt, it's cruelty-free, dye-free, vegan, etc. So it's good stuff. Now, of course, as an RBR viewer, you got a great deal on this bundle. If you use my code, which is RBR, you will get 20% off these, plus free shipping, and if you check the prices separately, this is just much better as a bundle. So remember, 20% off plus free shipping. Use the code RBR. Huge thanks once again, as always, to Manscaped. Now back to the episode. So as I told you guys in the past, the S-Class really links to AMG's origins with the Red Pig, which was that famous wide-bodied S-Class with the bored-out V8 engine that was the unlikely entry to a long race and eventually came overall second only because it had to keep refueling, but top of its own class. An amazing story, but one not so relevant, I think, to the normal S-Class, but it is the one that started that idea. So when we go back to cars that weren't even named S-Class, like the W109, we had a performance version of the S in that, which was called the 300 SEL, and that's a name that still sends shivers down people's spines when they think about it. And this was, again, that same, and you'll see this same formula throughout S-Class history. It's taking a standard Mercedes engine, boring it out further, and creating one of the fastest luxury cars in the world. And Mercedes really needed this at this point because their reputation as performance cars builders was waning after the Gullwing had now long come out of production. The next generation was the first to actually be called S-Class. That was W116. And in that, they had a very special car, a successor to that 300 SEL, which was the 450 SEL 6.9. And yes, the 6.9 refers to the 6,834cc V8 engine that was bored out and again chucked into this car, making it pretty much the fastest four-door saloon in the world at that time. Then with the next generation, W126, this is when that small tuner called AMG started smashing out some of the craziest luxury saloons in the world. So they would take the standard V8 from Mercedes-Benz, bore it out to 6 litres, change the cylinder head so you had a unique cylinder head with 4 valves per cylinder, 32 total, doubling the torque, increasing the horsepower up to 380, and obviously the usual body kit enhancements, etc. Back then with AMG, it was a case of how big was your checkbook. They would build you anything in terms of power or body shape, whether saloon or S-Class coupe. That was down to how much money you had. Then we came to the W140 and many performance versions of S-Class, and there's some really wild variants as well. First, we had the standard one, which was the S500 AMG that Alfa got involved in. This had a 6-litre V8 and all the typical AMG enhancements. What was more interesting was the S600 with a V12. Even rarer than that, if you had enough money and went to AMG, they would make you the S73 with that V12. And even crazier than that was a custom order from the Sultan of Brunei at the time, who ordered about 18 S-Class T-model wagons with coupe front ends and that 73 engine. And then later, that engine would be put into the Pagani Zonda. So, yeah, some pretty wild S-Classes back then. The W220 was the first generation to see an official AMG because this was when AMG became part of Mercedes-Benz. And it came out a few years after the first official AMG C36, and this was the S55 AMG with a 5.4-litre V8 again, 5-speed AMG speed shift gearbox as they called it back then. And this generation was also the first to have an S-Class AMG with a V12 as well officially. That car was the most powerful of its time with over 600 brake horsepower way back then in a saloon, which is absolutely insane. In fact, it was so powerful it couldn't use the then new 7-speed box, so it had to revert to the 5-speed gearbox instead. Then W221 got the best engine. It got AMG's legendary 6.2-litre naturally aspirated unit producing up to 500 brake horsepower. Again, we had the S65 in this generation producing up to 612 with the V12. Though famously still using the 5-speed because the 7-speed couldn't handle the power. The styling finally starting to get a bit more aggressive. It was very, very subtle in the past. Then the W222, AMG really starting to hit their stride now. This was that great era where the Black Series were being made, etc. So lots of technical modifications. The engine was the 5.5-litre biturbo, which was fine. Nothing really to write home about. It was an okay engine. But in this generation, it was more the attention to detail that AMG gave the technical side, like active curve like a motorcycle leaning in, AMG ride control suspension, more advanced ESP. Our facelift then got the 4-litre V8 like we have in this car today, going up to 604 brake horsepower, 900 something Newton meters. Again, really strong and powerful car. But then the industry changed and we're heading towards hybrids, we're heading towards crazy EVs with insane amounts of horsepower. So the S-Class had to change, and it has. This generation maintains that great V8, which is cool because it's in every single significant AMG. But then it adds F1 technology, namely a 13 kilowatt battery, which sits cleverly on our rear axle. That pairs to AMG's P3 hybrid system, which is this EDU or electronic drive unit that houses the limited slip differential, a 2-speed gearbox, and a permanently synchronous electric motor. Combining those two together, the V8 with 612 and the electric motor gives a staggering 802 brake horsepower. The torque is a crazy 1430 Newton meters, which we don't even need to discuss. 0 to 60 pegged at 3.5 seconds, which again, you're going to be shocked what the actual speed is that we get. And the electronic system is actually really clever because you get to use that boost across the entire rev range, which makes this so responsive when driving it. And again, that's something that you're going to see later on the drive. All of that is linked to the 9-speed multi-clutch gearbox, which is again, it's such a better way of doing it than the torque converter. And as you'll see later, again, the shift times are really good. All of that then goes to AMG's 4MATIC Plus all-wheel drive system, which is fully variable, so it can send all the power to the rear wheels if it wants to, or bring power to the front when you need help getting out of a corner. The F1 element of the battery is how each cell is individually cooled, and it allows for fast charging and fast power output as well, both of which you cannot do without with an AMG that's looking to use the power consistently. And again, AMG bringing their learning over the years into this in terms of increasing the rigidity. So we've got active engine mounts for the first time, just like the C63 or the AMG GT. We've got a whole host of stabilizers, crossbars, struts, etc. added to the car. We've got a carbon fiber cover around our rear battery, again, to help with stiffness. So much done in order to make this the most dynamic S-Class ever, according to AMG. The S63 also benefits for the first time with rear wheel steer up to 3 degrees. And then finally, AMG's Ride Control Suspension Plus with adaptive dampers, etc. Of course, an air-based system, and for the first time, anti-roll technology in this as well. So loads put into this, more power, more rigidity, more dynamism allegedly, and the ability to use the car for 33 kilometers on electric only. All of that is great, but what matters is how does it all come together at the end? We will see that shortly. Design-wise, it's the most AMG S-Class ever. It's the first one to ever have the more traditional coupe-style grille on the front end rather than the Mercedes grille. But I think I prefer the big grille, particularly without the silly radar thing that we had on the previous car that we first looked at. This car is finished in Magno White and it looks incredible with the carbon fiber package and then AMG Night Package 2, which de-chromed, well, makes the chrome all like a shadow chrome on the grille and everywhere else on the car in its application. And I think that looks amazing. So the front end is totally unique AMG. You've got the AMG side skirts, the rear you've got AMG's diffuser with the quad pipes. Otherwise still quite sedate S-Class, but I think coming closer now to E63 versus all the other generations. This is the most sporty looking one. You can get another set of wheels, which actually look really quite nice. And I think the way you spec this car is really gonna kind of decide whether it's a good looking AMG or not. This one, certainly in white, looks amazing. Interior is also really good. I want you to see what the car sounds like, so let's have a look at that now. And then we're literally gonna shoot off in a rocket launch control and show you what this thing can do. Guys, we lucked out on the interior and the spec of this car. It looks absolutely insane with the red and black interior paired with the Magno White, the black wheels, the carbon ceramics. It looks incredible, this car. Proper classic, you know, mid-noughties AMG, I think. So really happy with that. The rear, as you'd expect from S-Class, it's great, but for S AMG, it's more sporty. You've got carbon fiber on the back seats. You've got, you know, the same trim on the seats as you have on our front, more supportive bucket style seats. Got our usual squishy pillows. We've got our own climate control here. We've got MBUX controllable with the rear entertainment package or with your usual tablet over here. And with MBUX, you can control everything here with the massaging seats, the ambient lighting of the car, energizing comfort, all sorts of the maps, etc., all doable from the back because, of course, in the back of the S-Class, you are the boss. But truthfully, when it comes to S-Class, and it's all nice over here with your big pan roof and everything, with S63, this is not the car that you sit in the back in. This is all about that seat in the front. So let's go to that seat. I told you we lucked out on this interior, didn't I? This is just so well spec'd and it looks great. I'm going to show you around all of the structure of the interior, what it's like from my point of view. I'm going to show you the AMG specific displays in front as well, which are really cool. And we're going to delve into a few of the things that are AMG specific in here, and then we'll turn on the V8 and I promise you, you're going to love that element. We get the awesome AMG welcome screen, which we all love to pieces. Then of course you put the ignition on and a second time, and that gives you the lovely welcome screen on the little drive units as well, which is great. Now S-Class AMG in the front looks like a proper AMG, and of course the carbon fiber steering wheel, the unique super sport display, the drive modes here, a weird one there, electric only in an S-Class, crazy. In an S63 rather. All of that helps, as does the sea of carbon fiber literally around our front here, which looks absolutely gorgeous, cocooning us in this interior. Then you've got the usual, you know, the ambient lighting, which I think all falls to the wayside in the AMG version. You're less interested in all that stuff. You like the rest of this. Excuse the Haribo packet. That is halal, by the way, if anyone's going to throw shade at me. Let me close that. The seats of S-Class, of course, fantastic. The S63 particularly trimmed in the typical AMG diamond cut with perforations and the lovely Affalterbach logo sitting in the headrest here. But what I really love in the S-Class is the 3D screen in front. No other Mercedes has it at the moment apart from this and the new E-Class, and it's really hard to show you on film what I mean. Essentially, the background sits to the back and the fonts over here and these at the bottom all come to the forefront. So they appear to me as if they're floating. You won't see that, but they've got cameras in the back there that look at my eyes and give me the illusion of floating elements, which is great because basically it looks like a more analog screen like we used to have in the past. And I absolutely love that element. They need to push that out to all their other cars. It just makes sense. I must confess, I've never seen so many temperatures on the AMG central screen before. And that, of course, relates, the extra ones at the bottom relate to your EDU and your battery. And this screen here gives you that information as well, but that's crazy. But it's nice that it's there. And of course, you can change the information that you have in front of you as well to whatever you want, which is quite useful. And then again, if you go back, you can choose the track pace screen. You've got the sport screen as well, which has been quite popular in standard cars, but with the AMGs you get more information on the sides, which is really cool. Similarly, when you go into classic again, it's a bit more AMG because this is an AMG specific car, so they've modified these elements. And what's even cooler then, in your heads-up display you can choose things like track pace, race, super sport, and then all the usual things like augmented reality, navigation, etc. All choosable really easily through just a swipe on the steering wheel here. The steering wheel spoke has been redesigned to be more like the older AMG ones, which looks fantastic now. I love the carbon fiber one because holding the carbon fiber is actually quite nice, and then you don't deteriorate your dynamica. We've got the driving modes here, which go all the way from your slippery mode, individual, which you can set up. This is battery hold, and I'll show you what that does on the drive. Fully electric with range of 33 kilometers, and then your usual. And the cool thing is now that you can actually change the order of these to whatever you like, which is actually really quite cool. And you can do that on all of your AMGs now. Beyond that, even with setting select, which is our options over here, all of these can also be changed, and you can choose the ones you want. You can add more from this list, so you can have raising the vehicle, your camera views, track pace, drag racing. Everything can be configured to the way that you want it. So nice that they've added that in here. Now in terms of AMG specific screens, we've got the usual of AMG Performance, which goes through all of these. I'm going to show you all of these on the drive because they're much better when you're driving. The one I want to show off for you now, just for now, is the IWC clock, which I love, which has the IWC Top Gun chronograph in there. That's lovely. I love that. I just love the fact that that cooperation is continuing between those great brands. The more interesting one is AMG Track Pace here, which we will use again later on, where we're going to calculate the drag race time. You can use it on a test track like the Nürburgring, Silverstone, etc. as well to record your laps, which is great, and you get telemetry data if you really want to go in depth. And so weird to see charging, you know, within a big V8 AMG, but this is the world that we live in now. The rest of this all basically the same as your standard S-Class, so we're not going to delve into that. What I'm sure you do want to hear though is what this car sounds like, because it is the best sounding new AMG at the moment, thanks to that fantastic V8. So let's turn it on. So when you turn on the S63 for the first time, bizarrely it always turns on electric mode. Excuse the beeps, but you get the same turn on sound as the EQS. We don't want that, do we? So what you do is you hold down the button, you use AMG Emotion Start, which is holding one of the pedals, and it gives you the loudest start. Or at the very least, if not a loud start, it defaults into a combustion version. To do the louder thing, we're going to go into Sport Plus and we're going to give it some revs. So that's it. It sounds great, as usual, AMG V8. But now I need to show you the launch control, and I need to show you what I discovered earlier today about this car. So every AMG has this duality of purpose, but none as much as the S-Class. Because like I said, on one side you've got ultimate luxury, quietness, you know, all the things that you associate with the S-Class being the top luxury sedan in the world, and it is, let's be fair. But then on the other side you've got that dark side, the dark side of AMG. And what's made the S-Class AMG always so cool is that element, that it's just unexpectedly a brute. And surely none can be more so than this 802 horsepower crazy thing today. So I'm not going to mess around. Let's get out of comfort mode. Let's go straight into Sport Plus. We want to use the full 802 brake, the full power of this P3 hybrid system. All right, we have to start with a launch control, 802 brake horsepower. Let's see what the results are. Oh man, listen to that sound. Oh, pushing me back into the seat. Oh, that was quick. That speed for a luxury saloon is insane. 3.2 seconds on a car of this weight. Unbelievable. I'm going to be frank with you, I don't even think speed deserves a section in this review because obviously it's going to be fast. That launch control is crazy. 802 brake horsepower, 1000 plus Newton meters. You're expecting that. So I'm not going to dwell on it. You've got the power, you've got the grip, everything is there to make this, you know, an extremely fast car. And really, I don't feel that horrible inertia of weight that you often feel with really heavy EVs going fast. It does push you into your seat, as you saw, but it just feels, you know, very similar to E63 M5, that type of thing, which is nice. It's a familiar feeling. Initial impressions as we're going, we got some crazy roads here today, straight through the canyons. It is probably the most testing type of road for such a long, big and heavy luxury saloon, but a good test, probably the hardest test that you could give a car like this, to be honest. And kudos to AMG for picking such a challenging type of road, but at the moment, it's pretty damn impressive, you know. I came away quite unimpressed with GT63 S E-Performance, but S63, maybe because my brain is wired thinking that I'm driving an S-Class, but it doesn't really seem as much of a hindrance, the added weight and, you know, kind of the size of it versus what I felt with that car. Probably because GT63 has a normal combustion version, right, that never felt slow and, you know, you didn't really need the extra power, but with S-Class, you always want more dynamism versus the normal one, and this one gives you that, plus all that AMG. Bloody hell, this car is quicker at the corners. Rear wheel steer helping. Steering is absolutely spot on with feedback. I mean, AMG really nail it, don't they, with their electronic steering systems. I thought I'd be much more terrified driving this on these kind of roads, but I can really keep the car within these really narrow lines. That's how agile it is, and this is within the first 5 minutes of driving. I haven't really got to know the car yet. The other thing that's great is the V8. Listening to it in the background, it sounds brilliant, and this is what S-Class AMG is all about, more so for this one because it has to also, you know, replace our V12 that we no longer have in S AMG. Dual purpose now or S-Class, it has to fulfill both roles, and it sounds magnificent and it goes like an absolute rocket. Of course, I'm not going to push this as I would go absolutely mental in a four-door GT, but honestly, this thing is mind-boggling with just how good it is at managing its weight. Of course, we haven't had dynamic engine mounts in an S-Class before. We've got that here. We haven't had anti-roll stabilization within our AMG Ride Control Plus for S-Class. We've got that as well. Of course, we've got the full help of the 4MATIC Plus system, but then we've got that performance battery in the back as well. We've got the EDU. It's all a bit heavier, right? Somehow we are maintaining dynamism that should not exist in a car this size. Gearbox is spot on. Again, we've got AMG's 9-speed multi-plate clutch gearbox here, rather than, you know, a lot of our rivals using torque converters, which we all hate, namely BMW M, etc. And the nice thing, despite this being an S-Class, is when you're changing gears, it's an immediate change. There's none of that kind of torque converter pretending to be a DCT happening here. The way the nose comes in and then the back it still feels nice and kind of rear wheel driven because the power is mainly going to our rear, and then you get hard on the brakes, carbon ceramics doing their job. It just doesn't feel as heavy as I thought it would. It's really quite magical. If I'd liken it to anything, I would liken it to the way the Taycan feels a lot lighter, even though it's a lot heavier, because of the way that they manage the weight, the way that they've got, you know, that much more rigidity, and it's a sport car, you know, platform essentially. This kind of feels like that it just doesn't betray the weight as much as you would think. Yes, if you start going like E63 crazy with it, it probably will, and those understeer limits will come earlier, but I don't think you're going to do that. I'm not doing it. I'm driving it as fast as I would safely be happy to do here, and having fun, and not thinking that this is somehow hindered by the extra weight of that P3 system. Grip, speed is as you would expect. It's like you've got more than enough of all of it, and why wouldn't you at 802 brake horsepower and, you know, ridiculous Newton meters of torque available instantly. You know, as a car tester, you come into certain cars with certain presumptions, and you know, when you've driven enough cars, you tend to be right about a lot of them. Like, I was pretty on the ball of what I thought the C63 would end up being. Same with GT63S. I thought it's going to be heavier, less enjoyable. And I'll be totally honest with you, I came in with presumptions about S-Class that yes, it would be great emotionally, but in terms of a dynamic car, we wouldn't even bother trying. I have been proven completely wrong here. This thing is so fun to drive fast. And I'm so happy about that, because the S-Class is, you know, so intertwined with the origins of AMG that if it wasn't a dynamic and fun car, it would just be the wrong signal for the future. Whereas this is the shining beacon of hope that I was hoping it was going to be, being such an exciting car when we first unveiled it, and thinking, yes, you know, a proper V8 hybrid that sounds really good, looks really good. It's the old AMG coming back, and driving it, it's just confirmed all of that for me. That dynamically speaking, most of all, beyond anything else, it's got it licked. And of course, with that V8, the sound is great. And I must say, this is one of the few cars, I'm getting a bit sick of rear wheel steering in a lot of cars where it just becomes, you know, too artificial. This is one of the few cars where it really, really helps. Because you've got such a long car, but it just shrinks the size of the car, particularly in these type of narrow turnings. It really does feel magical in that way. The other thing I really like is that, to me, it just feels like a combustion car. I'm not able to tell that I'm driving a hybrid. I'm not able to tell when the EDU is active or when the V8's, you know, giving more of the power. It's just all melded together into just a normal AMG experience. And as an AMG customer, that's what I want. I don't care about the hybrid system. I care about the results from the propulsion system. Like, I'm not sitting here worried about the battery. This was the thing that I was, you know, worried coming into all of these cars. It's been at around about 60-70% since I started driving like a lunatic up this canyon road. And it's maintained that. So that fast charging and fast dispensing concept that AMG wanted to do, derived from F1, clearly working, because you're not going to be driving like I am here all the time with this car. But even if you are, your battery is maintained in Sport Plus, which is fantastic. Being a hybrid, the other cool thing that we have, we can push our drive select button here, and we get 3 different recuperation modes, either from 0 recuperation all the way up to 1 pedal driving. And again, that is something quite unique to AMGs, because we haven't had that in the past. So you can do 1 pedal driving, etc., which is quite good. And the other mode that I find very useful for battery management is battery hold. So it's B, and again, that comes up in the middle here. And then that will hold your battery level to exactly where it is and keep it there for you. So again, very useful for power management. The other brilliant thing that they have in this car is the AMG Performance menus here that give you, for example, all the temperatures for your engine, for your battery, for your gearbox. You go into vehicle and it gives you the variance in the road, how your adaptive suspension is working, all this information at your fingertips. Of course, you've got G-force, etc. as well. Go into engine and it's simply the coolest readout, giving you your pound-foot of torque, your horsepower, etc., with an awesome view of the car. This stuff is not only exciting to see happen while you're driving, but it's so useful in terms of relaying feedback to you as to what's happening mechanically. Often things aren't working 100%, and these type of readouts tell even us laymen, you know, what's going on under the skin, so that you can rectify things, or, you know, just marvel at the amount of horsepower that this absolutely mental car is pushing out. Now, I don't want to, but I'm going to put the car into electric mode. Yeah. Now this is pure electric driving. I can put on the electric sound as well, which is going to be quite strange. or rather just like EQS, that type of sound basically. And now I've got a fully electric S63 AMG for the next 10 miles if I want to use that. I really like the idea of that for actual ownership. If you're owning a car like this and you're doing the school run, you're doing grocery run, etc, etc, and your car's basically sitting at home, to jump in the car, put it in electric mode and just do all of that, and you've got 33 kilometers of range total. I know it's not a lot, but as an AMG customer, a V8 AMG customer, that boggles my mind that I can do that in this car, and I love the idea of that. And then equally, if you don't want to go that mental, just go into comfort mode, it will give you the best of both worlds in that regard as well. And then because this is an S-Class, in comfort mode, your AMG suspension calms down. Of course, it's all air suspension based. You've got your anti-roll technology helping as well, the active dampers, which are so clever, road scanning technology, all of the great stuff that the S-Class has brought in over the years. And it then just becomes, well, it's an S-Class. It does the other side of it, the duality, the Jekyll and Hyde side. It does Dr. Jekyll. It's nice and calm, nice suspension, steering isn't as direct, braking is a little softer. Of course, you've got AMG dynamics in the background making everything, less sporty, less sporty. What an epic car. Is it worth what I'm assuming is a 200 grand price tag though? Everything is expensive these days, right? I'm about to test AMG's GT63 in the UK, and that's like 170k or something. You can't get a good, powerful performance car for like under 90 grand. It feels to me like RS3 and all these cars are itching to get to that mark as well. So I don't want to be too harsh on S-Class because it's going to cost probably 200k plus. There's no car out there that will do what this does. There's just no rival to this car. Audi haven't bothered making one. BMW have got, the new 7, which is really, yes, it's slapping Mercedes in terms of the electric EV side of things, but can they hold a candle to them in terms of performance? I'll have to discover that. In the past they haven't been able to, and AMG have only widened the gap here compared to what they had before. And like I said, there's no car like it. You put it into Sport Plus, and from that S-Class it turns into an AMG Hammer of the past with 802 usable brake horsepowers and just dynamics that you just would not liken to any S-Class before it. So I'm super pleased to say that I love this car, and I haven't said that about all recent AMGs. I'm happy to say that about the S63. I can't afford it, but I'd love to have one in my house, like as the family car. I think it would be awesome to own one of these. It looks great. The looks, yes, a little bit polarizing for some people, but I think we can agree that it's the most AMG looking S-Class ever. Love the sound, love the engine. Let's enjoy this while we can. This is a great sign for AMG's future, I think. This, plus the future AMG GT, plus a few of their other high-end cars are going to keep the company where we kind of want it to be, and hopefully they build on this. We want more of this type of product and less of that, four-cylinder nonsense that I'm still not convinced about. So guys, thanks for watching once again. Please do like and subscribe to RBR. Hugely appreciate the support. If you've enjoyed this episode, we've actually got more than half a day left with this, and I'm just having too much fun on these canyon roads, so I think I'm going to have another lap around here. See you guys next time.